Hello, and welcome to A Gap in Justice, your podcast for anything crime related. I am Sean. How are you guys doing today? I am here with my wonderful sister Lindsay. How you doing, Linz?
I am good. Wonderful as always.
That's so ridiculous. Like that, you always get me off topic because you say something ridiculous back to me every single
Do
time.
you remember the name of what we're talking about?
Absolutely not. So, you always make me talk at the beginning, and you
You
tell me.
guys.
She tells me the name once. I try to remember it, and we see if I can remember it, and I never do. So, who are we talking about today, Linz?
So today we're going to discuss the Indiana case of Natalia Barnett.
Natalia Barnett. Okay, got there at the
Yes,
same
just
time,
told
maybe
him
even a
that.
second before
Yep.
you. Perfect. All right. So,
So I can't even tell you how old Natalia is because that's actually in question. So that's a huge part of this case. This case is you know how I get in like these modes where I go in like this tailspin and I like dive into the internet and it's hard for me to come back. This is how it was, and like I kept reading and then I'm like stop reading, just move on.
okay, I think I know which one this is now because I think Mom told me about this one.
Did
So,
she? No, I
maybe
feel
she
like
told me.
me and
Maybe
you talked about this one a little
Maybe you
bit.
did. This one, if it's the one that I think, this is going to be probably one of our craziest episodes of all time. So, hope you guys sit down, make sure you grab a drink and relax because you're in for a ride this time. So, go ahead, Linz.
Like I said, I think last podcast, I try to find interesting things, but I also try to find things that are a gap in justice. And so this case can be looked at numerous ways. But yeah, this is definitely interesting. So this case actually is so recent. It went viral in September of this year. And so Christine and Michael Barnett were charged with neglect and fleeing to a different country ultimately. So these are a picture of Michael and Christine.
Yep.
Natalia is on the end. And so I'm trying to see my dates real quick because actually Christine and Michael are now divorced.
Oh, okay.
And like I said, they are charged with neglect. So I'm trying to see when they ended up abandoning her. It was actually in 2013, now that I think about it. So they adopted Natalia in 2010, and they had her for 3 years, and then allegedly abandoned her in 2013. They moved to Canada.
Okay.
So they lived in Indiana, they left and went to Canada. So Christine actually will talk about how Natalia terrorized their family and they were lied to about her age. And so currently, Natalia claims to be 16 years old. The Barnetts are claiming that she is actually 34.
Yeah, this is definitely the
Yeah.
one that Mom or you told me about.
I
Cause,
think it was me.
yeah, because this is. Yeah, so
Well,
she's.
I mean, I always come across interesting cases, and so it just took me more time to research this because it's insanity.
Allegedly, so that's an 18-year gap. Let's think about that. Like,
Uh-huh.
you're claiming you're 16 years old, and you are actually 34, if that's true. You know what I mean? Like, that's insane. Like,
Oh, just wait. We have
that's
so much to talk about.
I'm so excited. I'm like flapping right now. Oh my god.
So, like I said, they actually moved to Canada. A lot of reports make it seem like they fled to Canada. Although Christine said that Natalia like terrorized their family, they didn't actually like leave because of her, essentially.
Yeah, they just moved away.
Yeah,
Like,
they moved away. So
yeah.
they have three other children, and one of their children they left to go bring him to like a special school. So he had like a form of autism, and they wanted to support him at this school. So
Oh,
that's why they ended up moving to
that's way sweeter than
Canada.
fleeing. What the heck? Okay.
Yeah, well, they're charged with neglect, and they actually have to return from Canada to Indiana to be able
Nice.
to. So they're out on bond, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't, now that I think about it, I know I've seen it briefly somewhere, but I don't even know if they still live in Canada. Because, like I said, they're divorced now. So, about a year after they allegedly abandoned Natalia, they were
Got divorced.
divorced. So, I don't even know if they might live in Indiana again. I don't know. So, not a whole lot of new information is coming out. And Michael and Christine are both now in gag orders, so they cannot legally talk about the case. So
Wow.
there was some of the stuff I got initially from, things that mainly Christine has said. But now there is a gag order. They are set to stand trial January 28th of 2020. So that's right around the corner.
That's soon.
You know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I'm trying to see what we have next. Okay. So let's talk about Natalia real quick. So Natalia has a rare form of dwarfism, which makes it difficult to gauge her age. So actually, essentially, they can't really gauge her age. When the Barnetts adopted her, they were told that she was between 6 and 8. They actually legally got her age changed from 8 to 22.
My God, dude.
Yeah. So a doctor actually examined her and legally, not illegally, legally changed it. And then essentially moved to Canada. It's since September when this came out, things have just done a tailspin.
Hit the fan, huh?
Yeah, essentially. So the woman in this picture, she's alleged that she is Natalia's birth mom.
Okay.
And so she apparently came out. And so Natalia is from Ukraine. So this woman actually came out and said that she is Natalia's mom and that her daughter is definitely a child who is 16. So she also said, too, that she was, forced to give her up for adoption due to her physical disabilities. Oh. So Natalia was actually in an orphanage until age 5. And then she was taken in by an American family.
Okay.
And so she had 2 American families. So she was initially adopted, and they gave her up in 2010. And then the Barnetts took her and ultimately adopted her. Natalia actually went on Dr. Phil this month. I'm not a huge fan of Dr. Phil.
Yeah,
but
most people aren't, but some people are.
Well, he has his own TV show. Somebody's got to like him.
Yeah, I mean.
And so actually Natalia went on Dr. Phil this month and kind of talked about different things. So the first family that adopted her eventually gave her up because she injured another kid. So apparently she was wrestling with another boy and she landed wrong, but this boy's mom thought that she was trying to break his arm.
Dang. Breaking boys' arms, huh? That's crazy.
I have no idea how old she is. Of course she looks younger, but again, she does have dwarfism, so yeah. It does make it hard to gauge her age. So she really could be 33 and we not know.
It's crazy if she's 33 because if you guys are listening to this and not watching on YouTube, obviously we have pictures.
Go to YouTube, yes, essentially, is what we're telling you.
Or you can look at our Instagram, too, because normally Lindsay posts the ones that we talk about a lot, and this picture is crazy to think about. If she is anything over, 14 is, way old for this. This is, an 8-year-old picture to me. You know what I mean?
Sure, sure.
That's crazy.
She looks very young. But once I read about, this mom thinking that she was trying to break this kid's arm, I started getting these thoughts of maybe she is 33. I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way.
30-year-old breaking a 6-year-old's arm.
Well, at that time she would have been younger. She would have probably been in her 20s, but still, it's. And if you think about it, if we're gonna look at a gap in justice, maybe the gap in justice is, adopting a kid from Ukraine and not knowing the appropriate information. Maybe that's the first thing is the orphanage handing out kids that essentially are too old or whatever.
Say handing out kids. They're handing out adults, clearly. So,
but there's so many different gap in justice, I don't know. I know families that cannot have children and have gone to different countries to adopt, and they're so excited and they're so happy. And to think that they're being taken advantage of I haven't even told you like some of the stuff that the Barnetts accused Natalia of doing yet. Like, but could you like? I just don't like the feeling of like people could essentially be taken advantage of because people want to help people out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And if they went all the way to Ukraine to adopt this kid and then ended up getting rid of her, I imagine that the whole breaking arm incident was probably not the only incident. And I mean, I work with kids with mental health every day. So, and I work with foster parents every day. And it takes a lot for people to give up kids.
Oh yeah,
It really does.
You're
and
a strong human being if you're fostering children.
And so
And
I
like,
think there's so much more than just the incident. And it's pretty crazy. So the Barnetts actually have talked about that Natalia threatened to stab her family while they were sleeping.
oh,
Natalia tried to poison Christine's coffee. And Natalia also tried to push her onto an electric fence.
my God, that's
Is this something you think? And I mean, I think some people would think like, well, no, she's clearly has to be an adult. But I will tell you right now, with working with kids, 8-year-olds are capable of this behavior as well.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It doesn't just, So, I mean there's that.
Some people have like mental illnesses already, or they're like sociopaths or something, don't understand, like, or
Sure.
their
could have
disability
mental
like holds
health,
them
yeah.
back. Yeah, exactly. So
Well, and I mean, I won't bore everybody and get into it, but like, okay, if, well, and I could talk about it all day, but if you think about the trauma that this kid has endured, so let's say that she is a 16-year-old. So she was forced to give up her daughter and she lived in an orphanage for 5 years. The trauma of not attaching to anybody after childbirth is major. So if that's true, the possibility of this kid having different trauma diagnoses, mental health diagnoses, are very high. So, I mean, there is that possibility as well. And so she could have had issues,
yeah.
When she was on Dr. Phil, she actually denied all of these claims. She denied trying to harm or kill the Barnetts or their other children. She actually said that the poisoning claim was a misunderstanding while she was cleaning. She denied that she ever planned to stab them and said she was only allowed to enter their bedroom, like if she was having a nightmare or something like that. So I couldn't imagine, like at some point they were obviously scared of this kid. And then this kid is coming into their bedroom and it probably freaked them out. That's probably why they were like, bye.
Oh yeah, this is like some scary movie stuff where this kid has like a knife and you're looking at him down the hallway and you're like, nope, 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 nope. That's crazy.
I do find it interesting though too, like Natalia herself is the one who said that the poison claims were a misunderstanding while cleaning. That just sounds so odd to me.
Yeah, it sounds super made up.
It does. It sounds like funny. What do you mean it's a misunderstanding?
It was a misunderstanding of my cleaning. So mommy had her coffee, and I tried to clean the table, and I sprayed a lot of it into her coffee. It's like, it's like, yeah, it's a little misunderstanding. Yeah, you sprayed it into her coffee, so if she drank it, she died. Like, that's...
Well, even if this kid is 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I have a kid who is 7, and she's not going to do anything like that at 7. Like, she's not going to accidentally pour something into my coffee while it just sounds funny. But again, cognitively, we don't know where she is. So maybe. I don't know. Dwarfism does not say, though, that something is wrong with you mentally.
No,
it's a
not,
physical.
Yeah. Correct.
So we just I don't know where her mental health or her cognition is. So I can't speak to that. And maybe if they said, like, yeah, she had, her cognition is questionable, then maybe, okay, I would believe the coffee thing. But honestly, just like with the arm incident, this just seems fishy to me.
Yeah. I mean, the excuse seems very fishy. Mm-hmm.
So when the Barnetts legally had her age changed from 8 to 22, essentially what they did was they enrolled her in a adult program. Christine started telling her to tell people that she was older. They ended up getting her an apartment in Indiana. They paid for a year rent and they left to Canada. Natalia said that she lived alone for a year. She lived on canned food that was left by the Burnetts, but she was not given any like additional funds. And she ended up letting the police know about a year later that she was abandoned and that she was actually an 8-year-old. So, I mean, when you look at this, like, okay, the gap in justice comes with, what if this is really an 8-year-old that was abandoned
That lived on their
in
own
an
for
apartment?
a year?
Yeah.
You think an 8-year-old could live on their own a year? I don't even
Have
think
you
that's...
seen Home Alone?
Yeah, he was home alone for like a week tops. So not
I
even.
think it was like
4
3 days.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like 4 days. Dude.
I'm sorry, I've just been watching Home Alone on repeat because of my kid. Home Alone 1 and 2. But
Dude, those movies are bangers.
But it is kind of funny because I think about my own 7-year-old and I'm like, there's no way she would even make it a day. She would freak out.
First of all, she cries if she if
would
I'm not in the
freak.
same room as her.
Yes. So, but I mean, I'm just saying, we don't know though. I mean, could you really imagine if this is an 8-year-old abandoned in an apartment by herself? That is insane to me.
Can Ashlyn make her own food?
She can use the toaster.
Well, you better have a lot of bread for a year. You better.
But no, I mean, like, when I think about like, obviously she doesn't use the stove. I mean, she'll cook with me, but I control that. I control, like, the burners and stuff.
Obviously,
and
yeah.
then I told her one day to, like, open the microwave, and she's like, where? So I even think about, like...
Dude.
So she couldn't even use the microwave on her own either.
Dude, she be eating grass outside day 2. Like,
I don't even think she would go outside by herself.
oh my god, dude.
But that's the thing. I mean, again, I don't, and maybe I baby her. I don't know. Maybe kids are taught to use microwaves early on.
I don't think so. I think about.
I remember
how
I
old...
ended up teaching you how to cook just so you would leave me alone because I didn't want to cook for you anymore.
Oh, I
as
remember
kids.
that too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like taught him how to make macaroni on the stove because I just wanted him to. But how old were you then?
Older, like I would say.
You were probably 11 or 12.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was probably in like middle school. Mom
I think you were probably younger.
No, mom definitely would not have let me use
10,
the stove
9, 10,
in
maybe.
elementary school. No way.
No, and I don't think she was gonna let you, but I was just tired of making you stuff, so I forced you.
All right, off tangent. Okay, keep going.
So, or the other gap in justice is this a 22-year-old con artist?
Correct. I mean, it's a good life. Who hasn't wished in their life that they could go revert back to being a kid? You know what I mean?
True.
You're living the free life. Like, you're literally, especially if you're a 22-year-old, you're killing those classes. Mm-hmm. Like those, I mean, in 3rd grade,
you're killing those classes.
You're for sure getting those S's. Those satisfactories for sure, dude. Like,
I don't think that's all I do. You know what? Moving on. So, Christine, obviously, prior to the gag order, she had talked about Natalia just was more mature. She had more, like, spoken language that was just more articulate than what a child would have. She wanted to spend time with, like, older girls. She didn't want to play with toys like a typical 8-year-old. And she also said there were, like, physical signs that she must be older. So Christine actually noted that she was giving her a bath, and she noticed that she had full pubic hair. And she was, like, really shocked about that. I mean, if you think about it, I feel like kids are going through puberty sooner now. Like, I know some, like, 10, 11-year-olds, but 8's early. 8's very early. And this is back when Christine thought that she was a 6-year-old. So, I mean, if she's given a 6-year-old a bath and she has pubic hair, would be crazy.
yeah.
She talked about Natalia as a woman. She had periods. She had adult teeth, and she never grew a single inch, which actually couldn't happen even with a child with dwarfism. So, Natalia, again, denied all this stuff. So, again, she said she didn't have periods. And then the Barnetts obviously then claimed that she was a danger to their family. And in 2012 is when they actually filed the birth certificate to change it. And this is why, though. Like, if you think about it, nobody is just gonna, like, you're not gonna go into court and they're gonna be like, okay, you think she's older, so we're gonna,
Yeah, and it's not like it's like, oh, she might be 2 years older. This is like a 14-year-old gap. Like,
Seriously. So, actually, Christine claims that bone tests prove that Natalia was 14 or older at the time of her adoption, and says that Natalia actually confessed to being older. And then she pretended to be. So the Barnetts actually put her in a psychiatric unit in 2012 by the Barnetts. So like a year before they abandoned her, they put her in a psychiatric unit. I mean, I kind of get where they're coming from. Like if they do allegedly these bone tests and then they find out she's 14 and then they've had her for 3 years already, so then she's 17 by that point, and now she's like posing as this person, I would probably put her in this psychiatric unit as well.
If you're an adult or close to an adult and I think you're an 8-year-old, I'm freaked out.
I'm freaked.
Immediately.
I agree. She was actually released from the psychiatric unit in 2013, and that's actually when the Barnetts got her then her apartment. So they just were like, look, we're no longer willing to look after you. You're an adult. That's when they then got the apartment, and then she ended up telling the police in 2014 that. So it's been a few years for this case to come down and them ultimately to be charged with neglect.
Yeah. Especially what's happening this year, like...
Yeah, they were accused of neglect by abandoning a child. And so, they, so remember the last case we talked about is based, it's like based after a movie. So do you know what plot of a movie this is from? What this sounds like?
I have no idea.
Orphan? Did you see that movie?
The scary one?
Yeah.
Yeah? Is that what Orphan is based off of? I don't remember it.
So I remember, like, I don't like scary movies, so I didn't watch
hate
it.
Scary movies, yeah.
No percent. Scary movies are nowhere on my radar. But, so the plot of Orphan is a couple who adopts a child who turns out to be a dangerous woman from Russia with a condition that stunts her physical growth.
This is real life Orphan?
In the film, the woman poses as a child, murders several people, including her adoptive father. That's spooky to me.
I mean, absolutely. That's crazy.
Yeah. So this is Christine Burnett. Obviously, it's after one of her court hearings. Like I said, she's out on bond, so she's not imprisoned or things like that. This is actually Natalia on Dr. Phil.
Wow, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So she does look older there. I think, like, the picture that we showed in the beginning, she looked a lot younger. But again, I don't know when that picture was taken from. This is the one that I'm trying to find. So since 2014, Natalia was taken in by another Indiana family. And so she was taken in by the Mann's family. So Cynthia is the mom. That's the one on the left. They have adopted a bunch of other children. As you can see Natalia in the front wearing like the Hello Kitty shirt. Yeah, and so she has then been living with this family, and they have like tried to adopt her and things like that. However, they can't, like due to some other past court stuff that's going on. And the fact that, like, she's technically legally considered an adult now.
Yeah.
But she does continue to live with this family, and they continue to take care of her, and they also take care of her as though she is a child. So they believe that she is 16. So I think the age now they're saying is 16.
Okay.
And so, yeah, Antoine and Cynthia Mans. So this is the couple that she lives with, and they do believe that she is 16. And they have also said that they think she poses no harm to their family. So Cynthia actually went on Dr. Phil with her.
They have really young children, if you guys aren't looking. Like, there's a really nice-looking, beautiful family. They have they have very young children, obviously. The one looks not even...
Maybe a year.
Yeah, maybe a year.
If that,
so, That's
So, yeah, I mean, obviously they support her and they think that, she is 16 and they've taken her in and they're apparently like a super religious family and things like that. So they believe, I mean, I actually seen a bunch of pictures. Like they have tons of pictures of her on like their Facebook and different things like that.
Yeah.
So they've taken her in and they have chosen to take care of her.
that's really nice.
Yeah.
But the thought of you not knowing how old
That
the
would
child
eat
you
at
have
me, I
is,
think.
like, and your child is like, just think like if she's 34, how much older are the parents than her? You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
gosh, I don't even know. Maybe
'cause
34.
yeah, like the parents could be. I mean, with their looking at their children, they might be. I mean, in their late 30s. You know what I mean? Like, so that's a crazy concept to think about. It doesn't feel real.
And
Like,
I'm very curious. Like, of course, I talked about this trial is set for January, and I'm going to follow the case. And I'm just very curious as to how they're going to prove this person's age. I can't even say child. I almost said child because I just don't know. Like,
yeah, well, I don't know what scientific evidence
well, and like I said, Christine
does.
is claiming that there were bone tests done that set, and there has to be. I mean, you'd have to be able to determine a range of age.
Yeah, but if you have, it says that she has like a very rare dwarfism
Okay, but 16 and
disease or
33
something.
are a huge gap. You can't tell me you can't hone in a little bit more.
I mean, you could probably hone in a little more, but I don't know if anyone's ever gonna get the angle because maybe it could be they could like she could be 8 or you know what I mean, like 27 or something. You know what I mean?
But the thing I think about though too is in order for Indiana to bring charges against the Barnetts, they have to have evidence against them. They have to have something that
physically says
they're going
she's like
to
16.
use. Yeah, I mean, because otherwise your case is going to fall apart.
Yeah.
In the court of law, you're innocent until proven guilty. And so it's going to be a leap for them to try to prove this if there's no evidence.
Yeah, I don't see the Barnetts getting any charges.
Well, and
Like,
let's look at like our past history of some of the other cases that we've talked about. A lot of people get slaps on the wrist. So let's say even they're found guilty. What do you think neglecting a child's going to get them?
I have no idea, honestly.
Probably probation.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even going to be anything. So it is such a gap in justice. Like, if this is actually an 8-year-old that was abandoned and they get probation, that's horrific.
Yeah, but if it's like a 22-year-old that you paid a year worth of rent to make sure they try to get on their feet, that's messed up for them. That's a pretty good situation to leave an adult in. Like,
sure, and I think that's kind of what they thought as well. Like, hey, we're just not willing to take care of you anymore. This is kind of creepy.
yeah,
We're gonna
we don't want to
move on.
Yeah,
like,
we don't want to get murdered.
But it's
and,
also kind
like,
of messed up, I think, regardless of her age. Like, okay, you stay here. We're leaving. Peace out. What?
I mean, yeah, it's really harsh, but I feel like there was more, fear than
Sure.
we could understand, I guess, because if someone that I didn't know was an adult was in my house and they said they were gonna stab me or they tried to poison me, you know what I mean? Or I heard they were
Sure.
breaking kids' arms or
Sure.
something.
Yeah, and I'm sure they were aware of the past incident.
Oh,
you
absolutely.
know.
You have to be.
Yeah.
There has to be a reason for, you have to know what happened in the past. There's no
Yeah.
way you can't. And especially if they already have a child that with special needs, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, you obviously, if your children has special needs, sometimes a special need child doesn't know what's right and wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she can see the way she acts, or
I would just hate to think that
like,
an adult would take advantage of people's kindness. But again, I'm being very naive because I've worked in prisons before. I've done social work for a long time. Like, I know people take advantage of people. People are in prison for this all the time.
people take advantage of people outside of everything. Like, even adults that are adults just take advantage of people in general.
Oh, yeah. I
You
think
see
if people see an opportunity, they're going to take it.
We talk about this all the time where around tax time, people start dating people.
We just talked about this.
Yeah.
I have a friend. Oh, I love her to pieces. So right around this time, she always talks about, and I think I told you this too, where like she's like, you're gonna start seeing a lot of really good-looking guys dating really ugly women because it's tax time.
Yeah, because it's tax season, and it's really sad because they're gonna.
It's funny, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's not funny.
They're gonna milk some of that money, and then they're gone.
Yep.
Like, and that's just humans. Yeah. I mean, they're just being. Crazy.
Actually, when I think about it, so when I worked at the women's prison, I actually knew. There were like 2 women there from Florida, and we don't typically get people from other states, but these 2 women were like part of this online identity theft ring that like reached to Wisconsin as well. And so it was like Wisconsin, Indiana, like it was crazy. It was just a crazy amount of states. And so essentially like they were in Wisconsin at the time, and Wisconsin's ended up charging them and imprisoning them, and kind of essentially I think they wanted to make an example of them. But yeah, I mean, it was this crazy like group of women who were from Florida and like did this whole identity theft thing of people. But
what movie is that? That's another movie.
Well, think about our recent incident. What about our cousin who got taken advantage of? And like, remember somebody called and was like, it's the Social Security office?
Somebody went and came to his work, talked to him.
I thought they didn't.
No.
I thought they were on the phone.
No, I thought they came to him and got the money.
No. Like, he was in his car, from my understanding, and was like, your Social Security number was taken, and you need to transfer all this money to this Google Play card.
And he did, yeah.
And yeah, I mean...
some people just don't know about things like this.
Yeah, because he called his mom, and his mom was like, oh my God.
Yeah, she was here on vacation, so...
But I get it. I think some people can just be taken advantage of, but part of me, when I think about this case, is just like... I just keep going back to, what if she was actually 8, though?
Yeah. See, that's...
I mean, by the time they abandoned her, she would have been 11. Does that make it better?
No, not really. But I mean...
That was the age of the Home Alone kid. He did okay.
Yeah, for 3 days. We already talked... I mean, to be fair, that was a special kind of kid. He had stuff to make pulley systems and stuff, so...
Dude, I watched Home Alone 2. That one's just as funny as the first one. Have you seen it? I don't feel like it's as popular, and people don't give it a chance, but this is me telling you guys right now, Home Alone 2 is great.
All right, on that note, we are going to wrap this
up.
No,
we're not. I actually... Excuse me, Sean. As usual, I like to look into stuff. I was curious about how common is it really for adults to impersonate children.
Okay.
And I found a bunch of like credible cases.
Of people doing it?
Do you want to hear about them?
Yeah, of course.
Or you want to cut me off?
No, it's okay. We can hear about them.
So, yeah, I actually found 4 cases. There were actually like 8 common ones, but I kind of did these 4. So 3 of them were from Texas, which I thought was funny. I'm like, I don't know what's going on in Texas, but...
Interesting.
So one was a guy named Sidney Gilstrap. And so he posed as a 17-year-old Hurricane Harvey refugee. So essentially, like, he didn't have to, he could say all of his documents were taken.
Yeah, okay.
And so he was 17. He posed as a 17-year-old. He wanted to play basketball. So he did this for 2 years. And then he was recognized by a coach at a tournament and then, like, busted out about it. But essentially, like, he basically was... I just wanted to, like, relive his glory days and stuff.
Really?
Yes.
That's real. Like, how?
There was also another guy in Texas named Taylor Smith who wanted to play football. And so he actually, like, attended 13 different high schools. And he, like, disappeared before they realized every time. But he just wanted to play football. I'm like, I'm not a sportsy person at all. At all. But clearly, like, there's just something about people wanting to, like, relive these, and I don't know if it's, like, part of them think, like, I want to make it big and go to the NBA and live my dream and I missed it. I don't know, but, yeah, I mean, there were 2, like, athletes I found who they just really wanted to play a sport, and so they posed.
I feel like sports ones are more common than other ones. Because I feel like sports is one of those things that... you dedicate all your time and then you think you're going somewhere with it.
And then you don't.
and you get crushed.
And then you have to reevaluate your entire life.
And then you're like, all right, well, I'm just going to
Sure.
go live it, whatever. So that's, I mean, Texans, come on. Texas, big football.
There was a 34-year-old named Charity Johnson from Texas who posed as a high school sophomore. She was arrested about a year later for providing a fake ID. And essentially when she was arrested, she told officials that her family abandoned her and she was just really looking for love.
Yeah, as a sophomore in high school?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to love those kind of kids.
Whoa.
You're not allowed to.
Seriously.
So, all right, interesting.
There was one out of Pennsylvania. So his name was Artur.
Artur?
Samarin. Well, he was from Ukraine.
Okay, I was
so
like, all right.
Essentially, his visa expired, and he continued to pose as a high school student so he could remain in the U.S. So I kind of understand that one a little bit better than
that one makes sense. Other than
the football one, I guess.
100%.
The most notable one too, and actually this is probably the most messed up one of all. So there was a Frenchman named Frederick Boldrin. So he actually told an American family that they were his son, who this 13-year-old named Nicholas Barclay who disappeared from Texas. So he pretended to be their son.
Oh, that's so messed up.
I know. It's bad. And so he actually said that he was abducted, flown to Europe, and abused in a pedophile ring before escaping. He actually approached like officials in Spain, and then Barclay's relatives then flew to Spain and took him back to the U.S. So they were like convinced that he was their son. Yeah. Which is so bad because this is like you're taking advantage of people who want their child back. And, you know, believe it or not, I've listened to a lot of podcasts where like that was a big deal. And it might even happen nowadays where like people kidnap young boys for like pedophile rings and stuff. Yeah. And so he tried to pose as like a kid. He was actually 23 at the time. And so he was able to like have this he convinced the Barclay family. He convinced the Spain authorities and the U.S. consulate, despite not even matching like the appearance of this kid, this Nicholas Barclay. A documentary has since came out called The Imposter that talks about the family had ulterior motives for accepting them as the son, and that he was ultimately then revealed after Hard Copy, a TV show, interviewed him for this story. So he served 6 years in prison for it, which I'm glad about. Yeah. You know, and he's known in France as the Chameleon.
Interesting.
I thought that was
6
interesting.
6 years in prison for a nickname, I guess.
Probably the most notable, though, that he, like, I mean, that's pretty messed up to assume an identity of a missing kid. Yeah. Like, I think families in that situations will do whatever they can to get their child back. Yeah. And, you know.
I think the biggest difference between those stories and this one, why this one has been so big, is the fact that she is claiming to be so young, and the age gap is incredible. You know what I mean? Like, the age gap of a high schooler playing football and maybe, like, a 27-year-old, you know what I mean? Wouldn't be that bad, but this is
Well, it is when they have, like, 15-year-old girlfriends and stuff.
Yeah, well,
that was part
obviously.
of it.
So
I think the craziest part about Natalia's case to me is that, and like I said, I plan to follow up on it, but I don't know how they're going to prove it. You know, I mean, she does have this rare form of dwarfism, and so I don't even know if they can even determine based on, I mean, if we can do bone tests to figure out age, but obviously her bones, she's only 3 feet tall. So, yeah. I mean, her bones obviously don't grow the typical way. So I just am so curious to watch this because, you know, I think this case takes on kind of a dark turn. And yeah, I mean, if it's an 8-year-old or was an 8-year-old, this is horrifying. But if this was really like a 14-year-old at the time, that's also equally horrifying, just in a different way.
That's terrifying. So on that note, are you done this time?
I'm done.
I feel like
yes,
you
I'm
put
done.
Your stuff away and you're ready.
I closed my notebook.
So absolutely incredible stuff today. That was a scary thing.
I'm ready to eat now. Wrap it up, Sean.
Yeah. All right. Well, now that she's rushing me, we hope you enjoyed yourself. We will see you next week for another podcast, and we love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it, and I hope we grow while you watch us. So
listening.
yes, thank you.
Sean's a YouTuber, guys, and so I think a lot of times he mixes up.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
the
okay.
YouTube stuff.
Yeah, I almost start with my YouTube intro almost every time we do this. So, but yeah, okay. See you guys later. Okay,
So
we're
thanks
gonna
for
end this.
listening.
Okay, bye. Thanks for listening. Bye.